Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you on this Savant Saturday morning roundtable. Lots to cover, a lot of college basketball, football. And look, what in the world are these kids thinking, all bailing on Alabama? I think the message here is if you're going to retire, you need to do it before the season ends. You need to announce it. Alabama, as of yesterday, had 31 players in the portal. This is nuts. Also, we'll talk with Dave Tompkins, is on with us from the Low Country. Frank Duffy from Big Canoe in the mountains of North Georgia. Rob Browne from Memphis. Doug Dean, hopefully, will be able to check in from his hunting camp. He's going for that monster buck over there in the black belt of Alabama. Going to try and shoot the big buck, the giant 14-point, 173 Boone and Crockett score. See if he can do it. Kevin Scarbinsky will join us here in about 35, 40 minutes after. Franz Beard, hour number 2, GatorBaitMedia.com. So, look, we do this 25 times a month, over 300 times a year. You want to be good at something. You want to be a great swimmer, swim a lot. You want to be a great runner, run a lot. You want to have a great podcast, radio show, and all that, practice a lot. Bring on the best guest. Dave Tompkins from the Low Country, who's got a big pot of Low Country stew that's been cooking for the last 12 hours. Frank Duffy is cooking gumbo and jambalaya. Trying to bring him on here. Frank, where are you? Bueller, anyone? Bueller? There he is. Nine times. And one of the great movies of all time. Frank Duffy is here with us right now from Big Canoe in North Georgia. And I'll tell you what, I think we got 6-7 inches of snow in Memphis. I'm over at the farm today and parking right outside of Memphis. The roads, they're fine now. Arkansas blows Memphis away. Snow plows, they got it all. Memphis, now they got a boiled water alert. So, folks, unless you want to get Montezuma's revenge, boil your water right now, like the MLGW says.
That's the difference between a blue run city and a red run city.
There you go. A red state. Yeah, and Tennessee's a red state. But we rode all over Memphis Wednesday. Ended up out in Collierville on the historic square, of course, at Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company, and talked to the owner, Charles Hall, and everybody. And man, they got great stuff in there. And hopefully Charles can join us in the last segment this morning before they open. But there was snow everywhere. And I'm, of course, driving an F-150 four-wheel drive with all-terrain tires, which you can purchase at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. And I was over there yesterday getting my oil serviced. And, man, it is just a great experience. Got to see Justin Wynn, Rusty Howard, Brandon Boger, Stacey Alford, Cecil, Lynn Hutchison in the service department. Just an awesome experience over there. And I suggest if you are out and about, no matter where you live, go get you a new Ford or Toyota truck, SUV, or automobile at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. Guys, man, let's start with you, Dave, on what's going on in Alabama. If I'm Caden Proctor and I come from Iowa to Alabama, I mean, this kid can't be stupid. You are set for life if you play at these schools like Alabama or LSU or Auburn. Where does he think he's going to go and get a better deal? You know, is he going to go back to Iowa? And I mean, nothing wrong with it, but you're at Alabama. I mean, you know, everybody wants to be number one. They're the pinnacle of college football.
I mean, you expected a few people to go into the portal, of course, but 31, Caleb Downs, it's brutal. It's just basically it's mob mentality. By the way, a nice Harry cameo in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The first hit since the third inning. Anyway, but yeah, it is a mob mentality going on right now, and it's just, and then what happens from here? So Alabama doesn't, they go 8-4 next year, and then they're calling for the coach's head. I don't know. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. I'm very optimistic. What you say, Rob, that the market will work itself out eventually. But right now we have chaos.
And
I was talking. Yeah.
And Dave, I would tweak it instead of it. I would just tweak it one word. It's really not mob mentality. It's herd mentality.
Yeah.
It's like those beautiful horses that we see who are just beautiful and magnificent and strong and intelligent. And all of a sudden, when everybody on the horses are going over the cliff, they go with them. That's what this is like. This is a herd mentality. And it's like those wildebeest that come to the damn river and see the crocodiles. And still hop in.
The greatest discovery show ever. The crocodiles.
And by the way, who do the crocodiles go after? Not the lead stag. They go after the old ones, the crippled ones, and the young ones. And with a wildebeest born on the Serengeti in Africa, they can run within 3 minutes of birth. If they can't run, they're a snack.
Rob, that's a second string offensive guard who thinks he's worth more than he is.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, want to say something? I got a new listener viewer, Sean McClish, works at Red River Ford Toyota over in Wynne, Arkansas, lives in Searcy, Arkansas, and commutes back and forth every day. Big Razorback fan. Got into a discussion about what's going on with Arkansas basketball because Eric Musselman is a hell of a coach, but they're struggling. They got a 79-78 win the other night over Texas A&M. But, I was bouncing off, go Dave and then to Frank. But Arkansas basketball, you got Kentucky at the top, obviously. And then you got Florida and then Arkansas. Those are the three schools that have won the national championships of the current members, in the SEC. Dave, from 42,000 feet, what in the world is going on up in Fayetteville? They lack for nothing. 19,000 fans at every game at Bud Walton Arena. Give me your thoughts.
They've got a great coach. They've got a ton of talent. They're playing South Carolina today. South Carolina having a surprisingly good season, and Arkansas having a bewildering, horrible season right now. I think they're 10-7, something like that. I think they'll turn it around. I think they'll start winning games in the SEC. I think they'll win some games in the SEC tournament. I think they'll, probably get a, last four in, so they'll play on Tuesday night in Dayton, and then Eric Musselman being Eric Musselman, they'll win some games in the tournament. That's my prediction. I'm not ready to, call them out for dead yet because the coach is too good, the talent's too good, the program's too good. But right now they suck. And so we'll see what happens today against the Gamecocks.
Yeah.
Auburn, Tennessee, and Alabama have all usurped Arkansas in basketball, in my opinion.
Well, Frank, I'm going to throw this at you. But you look at last year, there were 3 or 4 guys on that roster last year, Anthony Black and Walsh and all those guys. And some of them played a few games, some of them didn't, but they weren't there very long. But there's 3 or 4 of them that are in the NBA right now. I look at when you look at a team like Arkansas, I'm just going to focus. We're going to dial in on the Hogs. You think there's some chemistry problems with maybe a couple of players that other guys don't want to play with? There's something going on. You got to put the team first.
Something smells wrong in the locker room, in my opinion. And Arkansas has kind of gotten away from what made them great all those years under Nolan Richardson. That 40 minutes of hell. I mean, that was the thing that Arkansas would just wear you down. I mean, you couldn't even get the ball in. I remember some LSU games. I remember John Williams holding the ball. He looked like a statue. I mean, it was like 4 turnovers in a row just trying to inbound it.
Yeah.
That's what we had with Arkansas. And look, they played really well a couple of years ago. I remember having them when they were playing North Carolina and covered in, I think it was the Sweet 16 or might have even been the Elite 8. They were playing at a high level, but I can't explain what they're looking like right now. I mean, you got many of the SEC programs now that look like they've usurped them, and look, they're kind of on the level now with Ole Miss. And you saw what LSU did to Ole Miss the other night. We beat them on our home court to go 3-1. Hey, look, what's the old saying? If you ain't improving, you're going backwards. Arkansas basketball, in my opinion, the last year and a half, going backwards.
And everyone talks about the Big 12 being the best basketball conference, and they are, and they'll get even better next year when Arizona will join. But my goodness, the SEC is strong top to bottom. With case in point, LSU's victory the other night, and they were mid-tier team, but they'd be damn good in any other conference. And then I think the Big East is also is super, super strong. Sorry that Memphis lost this week, but I think their bubbles burst a little bit because the last few games that they won were really close. So top 5 SEC schools. That's a good question.
Basketball team.
Roundtable. That's a good Savant Saturday question.
Yeah. This year, here's a question. Memphis is up by 20 Thursday night at the Forum, FedEx Forum, one of the great venues for basketball, NBA, college. And for the first time I can ever remember, fans were told not to come to the game. I remember as a kid in the ice storm when we were kids, I was like 11, we slid on ice to get to the Mid-South Coliseum to watch the Memphis Tigers play. And I mean, God, it was awesome. And they blew that lead, but big credit South Florida for taking it from them. Penny's got 13 of 14 players, y'all, on this roster that I think are new to the team. One of them is Javon Quinterly, who came up from Alabama, and he's had 2 or 3 game-winning shots for Memphis this year. But I don't know. I mean, we talk about it. Coach John Brady was on the show with us yesterday, had some technical issues. He's going to be back on Monday. Thank you so much, Frank, for making that introduction to him. Love that guy. And he'll be back on Monday. But before I want to leave the Memphis topic, is say, you think it's and Cheryl Chambers, one of our viewers, is sending me some questions right now. Do you think it's chemistry, or what do you think? With that many new players, damn right, it's got to be chemistry. They don't know each other. And they're not the only team suffering from that.
I think they in the preseason, they had some really, really tough games and matchups that I think is going to fare well in their seeding ultimately in the tournament. Started to win. I think they maybe got a little complacent. So this is probably a wake up call for them. Yeah. And I think they're gonna turn around. But yeah, if they can go deep in the tournament with 13 or 14 new players, then all credit to Penny. And I'm really pulling for Penny to build a great program at Memphis, because Memphis deserves to have a great program. Going all the way back to I guess Dana Kirk and Keith Lee, the 6'11" version of Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, Jim and Gene Bartow. That was fun. I mean, but Frank, I wanted to ask you real quick. We're going to get back, and I want y'all to both name your top 5 teams this year in the SEC. But LSU basketball, you talk about Lazarus. The job that Matt McMahon is doing down there. They lost at Auburn the other night. They were down by 28 last Saturday. All of a sudden, that's a 9-point game. And I think they were without their best player. I think LSU basketball is going to win a bunch more games this year. And Kim Mulkey is one of the reasons why. You get in a room with that woman, she raises the bar.
Yeah. I like both of our programs. Obviously, our women's program is phenomenal, right? I mean, it's amazing what she's doing. It's a tough game last night against Alabama. I caught a little bit of it. The Alabama women, really took LSU at halftime. It was a close game, and then LSU kind of pulled away. But the men, we've already usurped what I thought we would wind up doing this year. So everything from here on out is rice and gravy for Tiger fans. But I watched the game. I went down to the Pels game. I went out and hung out with my buddy Ty Graffinini, who's the voice of the Pels, down at Smoothie King. I watched the Pels beat the Hornets the other night. But when the LSU team started getting tight, I went into the concourse and watched it, right? I didn't get to hear my buddy John Brady on the call. I'll normally reserve that for the for when I have a chance when I'm at home. But I did hear and see the national call. And I'm telling you, LSU looked really good. Even when Ole Miss was making that run late, we went to the line, we hit our free throws. So, you got to give him time. This is a rebuild. Obviously, under Wade, we had issues, I'm shocked he got unscathed and got off as easy as he did. Honestly, I thought he was going to wind up in, NCAA hell for longer than he did. Now he's over at peace. But yeah, we're the LSU basketball. It's kind of really strange. We've had incredible talent throughout the years. Pete Maravich, Bob Cousy, Bob Pettit, going to Keel O'Neal, Chris Jackson, Maud Rauf. Now, we've had
Noodles Romanoff is what I called him. Pronounce that name.
Fran Backlund, Dwayne Scales.
Yeah. Rudy, in fact, he and I were buddies when we were in LSU together. He would always come up. He had a buddy of ours that was on our dorm in 1980, Kirby Smith. He would always come in, and that was right before we did the run to Philadelphia, only to lose to Indiana, the eventual champion. In fact, LSU kind of had a thing there for like 4 years straight. We in our runs with Dale Browne, we would always lose to the eventual champion. Michigan, another one, right?
Auburn did the same thing.
Yeah. So LSU,
they made the Final Four one year as an 11 seed.
We did. Well, that was in Dallas, and let me tell you, that was in fact. You talk about Keith Lee. To get to Dallas, we had to beat Keith Lee in Memphis. Now we were lucky. We got to play him in Baton Rouge. That's where the first two games were. We beat it in '86. We beat a tough Gene Keady coached, Purdue team, the Boilermakers. He had the swoop over.
The greatest comb over ever of a coach, Gene Keady.
Double
with the zip up boots he wore.
Double overtime. Then we beat Keith Lee. Then we go to Atlanta and beat John Sally and Mark Price of Georgia Tech in Atlanta. And then we got a shot. That's right. And then we got a shot at Kentucky. Roger Harden was like a thorn in our side, right? I mean, they had. I think that was one of the year with Kenny Skywalker. But Roger Harden had killed us the 2 games before, and Ricky Blanton, the 6'11" who had to be put in at center, one of Dale Brown's greatest moves, shut down Kentucky, and we won that game. And look, most people don't remember. We were up by like 10 on Nervous Purvis Ellison and Louisville in Dallas before we succumbed. We've never made a championship game in men's basketball, but we should have that year. That would have been a hell of a year. And the next year, don't forget, we came close to beating Bobby Knight in Indiana before at the end. Nikita Wilson missed an open 10-foot jumper. He bagged it. We're going to another Final Four in New Orleans, where we are pretty good at winning national championships in New Orleans.
Indiana had no answer for Nikita Wilson in that game. I remember that game so well.
Yeah, and that was the one 10-footer he missed the whole game. He filled it up the other time. But yeah, you're right. But no, I'm happy, Rob, where we are. I think Mac's going to do a wonderful job. John's fired up. We've talked back and forth. I heard the call of him, Chris Blair on Wednesday night with the game against Ole Miss. The PMAC, there was not a lot of people because of the freeze. In fact, my daughter couldn't even get to work because of how the roads were a little slick. But when they come back, from the road trip, you're going to watch with LSU being 3-1. If we can go 4-1, let me tell you that the PMAC will get filled up. When the LSU's playing well, we can rock the Maravich Center.
Well, I agree with you. And Dave, y'all talking about another player you left off that list, Stanley Roberts. Remember, he was there. But speaking about Keith Lee was from West Memphis, Arkansas, the Blue Devils, and they had a great team, state championship team. The other guy on that team, Michael Cage, went to San Diego State, and Keith Lee was a scholar. This guy
William Bedford was on that team in Memphis.
William Bedford, the 7-footer, from Melrose High School in Memphis. Baskerville Holmes. They had
He was
so many great players on those teams. And you talk about Kevin Scarbinsky is going to be on here in a few minutes, guys. It's going to be sort of like bringing Robert Plant out to back you up on vocals. He is a U.S. Basketball Writers Hall of Fame writer now. was inducted last April out in Houston at the Final Four. But, man, as much as we love college football, I love college basketball too. It is so much fun because look at Frank, talking yesterday in the brief time we had Coach Brady on. He'll be back on again Monday at 8:30 a.m. Central. It's addictive to watch these, especially when it's really cold. It's 11 right now here in Memphis in the Mid-South, and it's cold. But I get out and do stuff, but at night there's just nothing like Big East Monday, Big 12 Monday. I miss the Big East being where it was. Y'all remember in the late 80s, throughout the 80s and the 90s, Big Monday.
Big Monday.
Madison Square Garden, Big East basketball. And who's the number one team in the country right now, folks? UConn. Of
course, UConn. And they have the best coach in Danny Hurley.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Big Monday was great, man. You'd have the St. John team, Villanova,
Syracuse,
Georgetown.
Yeah, they were great teams.
Hall, PJ Carlissimo. I mean, that is just great teams.
Luke Conaseca.
Cities, great coaches.
Sweet
Raleigh Massimino.
Raleigh Massimino.
Oh my
Easy Ed
God.
Pinckney.
Yeah,
Ed Pinckney.
Dwayne McClain. That was the team that knocked off Georgetown in '85.
The guy who used to sit outside and hit the jumpers, Jensen. I can't remember his first name.
Harold Jensen.
Jensen.
They played 6 people. He was their 6th man. Yep.
You know what was cool? I was in the bar business, of course, Louisiana. We all have to own a bar at some point. But I was in the bar business in 1987. What year would they have come in? No, it was 86.
Villanova won in 85. Georgetown won in 84. Villanova 85. Louisville 86.
Yes, but they came into LSU. They were in that regional with us in 86 when LSU came out. So all those guys that had won the national championship the year before came out and hung out at my bar the night before the thing started. So I got, what was his name? Pacone was the big center, the kind of heavy set center, Pacone or Panone.
Oh yeah. That was after right after the national championship.
Yeah. So all the Villanova players and the cheerleaders came into my bar and was hanging out that night. In fact, it was really cool. We wound up having a reception for all of the cheerleader squads. We would have that. And the reason we had it was, I think it was either the year before or it was the year after, we wound up having the SEC cheerleaders that came in for the SEC tournament was that year in Baton Rouge. And let me tell you something. When the Kentucky cheerleaders walk into a place, it's like an old E.F. Hutton commercial. Everybody's into her, man.
Yeah.
And them Cajun boys hadn't seen that much blonde hair ever.
Yeah. Well, y'all are talking about these games. It was at 86 or 87 when Providence and Rick Pitino
87
got to the Final Four. Yeah.
Billy Donovan was one of his players.
Yeah. And I was on spring break. I was in San Moritz, Switzerland, and skiing over there.
Damn.
And I'll never forget, I got over there and I forgot my checkbook back when we used checks at the hotel. And I called my dad, and boy, I've heard some dumb things before, but how in the hell? And within 15 hours, guess who was there to deliver it? The FedEx guy. It was great. And I'm watching so much basketball and listening on the Armed Forces Radio Network. It is so. Dave, you were living in Europe at that time.
I was listening that very year on Armed Forces Network. Listening to March Madness. Yep.
And you were in Kaiserslautern or
Kaiserslautern, Germany. Yep. You got it.
You were. Okay. And so you think about this basketball. I mean, I can tell you the city of Memphis, when the University of Memphis Tigers are rolling, Dr. Bill Hardgrave, who came up from Auburn, he's now about to finish his second year as the president. He understands how important the marriage is between athletics and academics and getting the entire city behind you.
Yeah.
Penny is loved by people in Memphis. And, you pick the town where you got to – it's hard to find someone more loved by the fans, but also someone who invests more into the city where he lives, where he's from. A guy He doesn't just take, he is a giver and an investor. And when they're rolling, this city is unlike it is at any other time. It's a combination of, if Elvis was on stage and everybody had a barbecue sandwich, Memphis basketball and in football too. Hell, they were 10-3 this year. But y'all get it. And Frank's back in the witness protection program. And Dave, is your Yeti mic working? Have you plugged that thing in?
I had a super busy week at work and included some travel. So I'm just wondering if it's my fault. No, I will be Yeti compliant next week. I promise.
No, I'm just saying, because I didn't, for the longest time I had one and I wasn't using it. I was just using the microphone off the computer, and during the break, if you want to try it, I'm just curious how it sounds, because it sounds fine. It's just this thing, Billy Roberts told me I had it for over a year and a half. And finally we asked Nigel and he said, "Oh, just plug it in right here." I'm like, "Oh, very easy to do." But I love this discussion.
I did last week, but when I did, I couldn't hear you talk. So I just, Luddite that I am, I kind of gave up after the first try. But I'll my better half is tech savvy. So and she has a microphone. So we'll
and I can tell you this: I'm not the IT guy. I'm not Beaker at the office with the Adam's apple out there. But
and don't forget, we have to answer the question. The 5 top teams. Now, I think we're all going to agree on the top 4. I do. Auburn, Alabama, I think Kentucky, and I think you're going to probably have Tennessee in there. So those will be the 4.
I would put Auburn number 1.
Yep.
Kentucky 2. And then we'll see what happens today in Knoxville. But I would probably put Tennessee 3 and Alabama 4.
Now, I would agree with that. Now, I'll bet all 3 of us have different a 5th team. So you go first, Dave. See who you like as a 5th team.
Boy, that's a hard one. I'm gonna throw one out there. You know what? I'm gonna be a contrarian. I'm gonna go against the grain here and say Georgia. Silly pick.
I can't do that. I just can't do it. I will tell you, despite what I saw on Wednesday night, I think Ole Miss really is a strong team. I think Georgia's going to come back to the pack. I think it's going to be Ole Miss. Even though we beat them, I think we caught them on the right night. They were traveling. You had scheduling issues. I'm kind of
got a great coach.
Yeah, they do. I think it's Ole Miss because I don't see Florida and I don't see Arkansas coming back up to the pack. And I'd love to see LSU hang up there. But I think it's going to eventually be Ole Miss before that'll be the 15.
Well, yesterday we had Mitch Davis on the MitchDavisShow.com, and his top 5, he had Tennessee, Kentucky, Auburn, Alabama, and then tied for 5th were Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and LSU. He thinks it's that close. I really believe guys like Chris Beard and Bruce Pearl, they're going to win anywhere you put them.
Yeah, exactly.
There's just some people that are like that. And I watched that LSU Ole Miss game the other night. It was Wednesday night.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see Chris Beard came in and had to do a lot of mixing and matching via the portal. But you can turn things around quickly in the portal.
Yeah.
But Chris Beard is a definite alpha male, okay? You're going to play his way, scramble for balls. You can look at those Ole Miss players and see how focused and dialed in they are. And that's probably a reason why so many of these guys are leaving Alabama, because Nick Saban set the tone. You want to be a great anything, you better hang out with people that are great and better than you. Don't be afraid to get beat up a little bit, because it'll make you better. But I'm telling you, this guy Matt McMahon, Mitch talked about 8 years ago covering him at Murray State. Mm-hmm. We're going to take a break and come back to it. He is a really good coach. John Brady should be, and I say this to him every time he's on, not just to say it, but he needs to be on SEC Network. They've got some good people on there on the basketball coverage. But John Brady, and also he's funny as hell. He's He is.
You should see him off air with a couple glasses of wine in it.
You know what was cool back about 6 weeks ago? He was on a Friday morning back in mid-November, kind of early basketball season, on a show with us. And he goes, I'm at a friend's hunting camp down in South Mississippi, and it was Tim Floyd. And so we had Coach Tim Floyd on there for about 15 minutes, and Coach Brady was nice enough to do. I mean, it's just he really gets it and understands all the minutia. Let's take a quick break.
Funny as Danny Ford telling stories. That's how good Coach Brady is.
And Danny Ford telling a story.
Storyteller.
Danny Ford on a tractor telling a story. That guy is he's from Gadsden, Alabama, Etowah County. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Want to say something real quick. Get over there, Red River Ford Toyota, Wynne, Arkansas, open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. I was in there yesterday. Total new service department. Lynn Hutchison taking over. Rusty Howard was there. Sean McClish. Talked to Brandon Boger, Cecil, Stacy. All the people were there. I'm going to tell you what. Great service. Fords and Toyotas, cars, trucks, and SUVs. Tons of them on the lot. There's been some snow and ice and everything like that. Go over there and work with them. Everybody says they want a deal. You don't have to work real hard to be treated right at Red River Ford Toyota, Wynne, Arkansas. They're open today. Service department open until 12:30. And they will deliver, by the way, anywhere. They deliver all over the country, cars, trucks, and SUVs. They also have pre-owned vehicles as well. Check them out, redriverfordtoyota.com. Frank, what were you saying?
Quick radio tease. When we come back, I'm going to tell you why this is the greatest period of Ole Miss sports ever. I'm going to channel my inner Yancey Porter and tell you why this is the greatest time than even the early 60s.
I think you're on to something. Let's take a quick break from the Vitamin Shop and some of our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought-after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal, and the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
Yeah, curve everything else. Win, 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 win. These ops ain't lit. Mommy. Win, 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 win.
Welcome to Rumble, bringing half boxing, half strength, and 10 rounds of fire. Pull up, say what's up to our studio team, check in and grab your gear. Don't have gloves, don't have wraps, don't worry, we got you.
You think you better than battle?
Find your starting spot. B means bag, F means floor. Make your way to the studio, find where all the magic happens, give Jab a little love on the way in, or snap a pic for the gram. Tap in with your trainer and get ready to bring the thunder. Eyes up at your Rumble trainer, fitness pro, DJ, MC extraordinaire. We'll walk you through our 6 punches in our
Rumble Boxing Gym, 1835 Union Avenue, Midtown Memphis, at the corner of Union and McLean. And all the gear that you need, they have it there. The gloves, the wraps, everything. Those classes are absolutely incredible. Audrey and I have a lot of fun going in there. And Camp Lee. Our friend is the owner. She's going to open a couple more locations in the Memphis market soon, but they're open 5 a.m. to 7:30 Monday through Friday, Saturdays and Sundays, 9 till about noon. The classes, 48 people in there. You saw the video there on the commercial. I'm going to tell you one thing. You'll have a lot of fun. There's a lot of type A personalities in there. You do star jacks, jumping jacks, pull-ups, dips, push-ups, planks, dumbbell work. Then they'll go switch, and you hit those 250-pound bags for 3 minutes. Hook, hook, jab, jab, gut, gut. Rumble Boxing Gym. Damn proud to have them as a sponsor, as we are all of our sponsors. And the Vitamin Shop, 5338 Goodman Road in Olive Branch, Mississippi. Open Monday through Saturday, 9:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sundays, 10:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. When you walk in there, they know what they're doing. They have healthcare nutritionist specialists there. You don't get the blank stare. I don't know. I just work here. You're going to get people that know what you're doing. Audrey and I shop there. We buy the probiotics, buy the goo and the shot blocks for biking and running and swimming, all that good stuff. They really know what they're doing, and they're opening up another location February 12th in Oxford, Mississippi. Grand opening February 23rd. All of our
what a segue, Oxford, Mississippi.
What a segue. By the
home
way,
of the Ole Miss Rebels. What a segue. Frank, take over.
By the way, short of a fat kid holding you down in a swimming pool, you talk about the longest 3 minutes on the planet is a boxing workout. That is the longest 3 minutes on the planet.
There's 45 minutes or 15 3-minute sections, and you go for, which is the length of a prize fight. Can you imagine?
3 minute rounds. Holy mackerel. That's going back to when they used to have heavyweight fights that went 15 rounds. I mean, I remember as a kid, watching Leon Spinks and Muhammad Ali going at it at the Superdome, on news.
Yep.
But no, I look, I'm telling you, this might get me kicked out of every proper home in Louisiana, what I'm about to say, but it might also get me on the Rebel Yell hotline on Monday. So, it might be a silver lining on this. But I think this is one of the greatest periods of Ole Miss sports that's ever been. Think about it. Just 2 short years ago, they won a national championship in baseball.
Yep.
They've got a football team with a coach that is coveted by pretty much every program. The fact that, again, he didn't go anywhere when both Alabama schools had an opening, pretty impressive. And he just won 11 games. And then you have a basketball program that's, again, upper level and rising. I mean, it's salad days in Oxford right now, boys. And look, I know they had some great times back in the early 60s with a national championship and those incredible teams, and then saw them again in the late 60s, early 70s when Archie Manning came from Drew, Mississippi to Oxford. But, man, my buddies, Campbell McCool and Michael Estes and all my Ole Miss buddies, man, y'all are living through some great days. Y'all have to be enjoying this.
No school in America has a better combination of a football coach and a basketball coach.
I would agree with that.
I agree. And look, they just won 11 games for the first time in school history. Ole Miss football, they got a great tradition, but now they're winning these. In 2 of the last 3 years, they've won 10 games 2 years ago, played in the Sugar Bowl. They won 11 games this year. As I put up there on the thing, they won 11 games for the first time in school history. And Frank's right. This last couple of years is the greatest period of sports success in Ole Miss history. Frank Duffy said it. So it is said, so it shall be written, so it will be. I agree with you. I mean, you're right. We
would go in there and waltz into Ole Miss and beat them in football. And let me tell you, this year, that was a snake pit. That was one of the loudest stadiums I've been in as an opponent. When Jaden missed that last second pass to try and bring that comeback, that place was freaking loud. And it was ringing in my ears. I mean, I was right near one of the portal's exits. I did not want to be around it. They were going to give us hell. Man, as soon as that pass went incomplete with like a couple seconds left, boom, I was down there and I could still hear it. My car was right off of campus, which I love the Ole Miss campus. I was right past the Grove. And let me tell you, by the time I got to my car, it was still loud as hell with them hooping and hollering. Yeah, we watched that game after the Auburn-Georgia game down at Dr. Waller May and Susan May at their house in Auburn on the big color TV outside by the fire pit. I mean, it really wasn't that cold. But it was 55-49
Ole Miss won. And yeah, you're right. The Ole Miss people in the past were okay. Hey, we win 7 or 8 games. And I was like, well, they said, you Auburn and Alabama, y'all are just like cannibals. You got to win every game. I was like, well, you do. You watch this. Ole Miss fans, you're not going to be happy anymore if you don't win 10 or 11. It's just once your mind expands from its original size and goes up here, it's called learning. You can criticize. Yeah, you can criticize Alabama fans all you want, but man, when you've won like they have, and you don't win, it's pain. It's psychologically, it's like sitting in a room with no heat. You get a headache because you're mad and you're trying to stay cold. It's going to be different at Alabama. I'm not saying they're going to fall off a cliff, but it's going to be different.
Oh, hey, look, Ole Miss is going through the child line, to use a reference that Dave would appreciate. They're going through the child line. And what's the old saying in the Army? Take all you want, but you better eat all you take. And you will be running off in PT. But let me tell you something. They're going through the line right now with the fact that Saban's gone at Alabama. And both LSU and Auburn are in the first stages of rebuilds. Let me tell you something. Ole Miss is scooping up stuff, putting it on their plate. They're expecting big things. You watch. They're expecting that first trip to Atlanta. I can tell you that right now. I know a lot of them. That's what they're expecting this upcoming year.
Yeah. And they've got an easy schedule next year.
Well, Yancey Porter, who's on the show every week with us, Rebel Yell Hotline, he said it about 3 weeks ago. He said, Ole Miss is smelling blood heading into next season. And I totally agree with him. And you got Lane Kiffin. He does not want to recruit kids from 8th and 9th grade on up and massage their egos and just kiss their ass. It's just not what he wants to do. He's going to go by started players. That's what you're really doing. And I'll make a comparison. You can go buy you a puppy, a Labrador Retriever if you're a duck hunter or bird hunter, or you can buy you a started dog. It's going to cost you $10,000, $15,000, depending on how the breeding's on it. But I mean, it's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to spend the time training it yourself? You can do it. I've done it many times, but you want to get started players. That's what Kiffin has done in the portal. And Texas A&M, Mike Elko, we're not talking a whole lot about them. All these cheers, I don't understand them. If somebody could get on here and somebody explain it to me. Casey Goodjohn is listening right now out in Claiborne County, Texas. This guy's a 20-year Marine. Met him down in Orange Beach back in September, surf fishing. Great guy. Serious, badass deer hunter, by the way. But I want Rob, people I think are doing in the portal better than they did in high school recruiting.
Well, I think Lane's probably short of maybe and look, I thought Saban did a great job in the portal. I think Brian Kelly's done a great job in the portal as well. A Heisman Trophy is living proof of that. But I think Lane Kiffin, pound for pound, has done better than anybody in the portal. But here's the thing, Rob. Here's the thing. To your point, Dave will tell you this from all his years at Churchill Down. That's why you and I and Dave could put our money together and buy a weanling or a yearling, but the sheiks come in and buy the 2-year-olds in training because they know that's what they're getting. Right? You're exactly right. That's why they're picking the portal. And look, that's why us big programs can do that. That's why you're able to pick off the players.
Yeah.
Also why it's so insane what's happening in Alabama, because normally the door doesn't go that way. I get using the greatest of all time. I get that. But you got to give this guy some time. I mean, they haven't even heard him out.
Yeah. Frank, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but Kevin Scarbinsky just texted, he's having Wi-Fi issues. I think this extreme cold messes with Wi-Fi. I mean, I know it is here, a lot of places, but Kevin's going to be on with us in a minute. Doug Dean hopefully can jump in with us from the deer stand over in the Black Belt of Alabama.
This is a technological vortex that rivals the Bermuda Triangle. I don't know what the goes on in his office, but he has more technological issues. Look, Buddy might be the only human being that has more technological issues than Kevin, but he's got a lot.
Yeah, Kevin is, but he's trying to get on there in Birmingham, so hopefully be on in a minute. But, I want to go back to Now, today's word, I like this when I put it up there. Today's word is usurp. Frank used it 7 times in the first segment. Usurp is to rise above and to rebel and to knock out of the way, like usurp. Another word I like to use is vacillate. I think the Alabama players should be vacillating rather than just hitting the portal. I mean, again, in interest of full disclosure, I'm a graduate of the Alabama Polytechnic Institute, Auburn University. Proud of it. But I call it like I see it. If you are, Proctor from Iowa, the number 1 offensive lineman, you start every game as a freshman. Why are you not? I mean, look, my job is not to come on here and promote any one school. I'm going to slam them. I'm harder on my own school than I am anybody, especially Hugh Freeze. I mean, I'm just, you're getting $6.5 million. Don't tell me you don't have your damn team prepared for a bowl game. And I'm sick and tired of these whiny ass excuses. Well, the bowl games are exhibitions. They don't matter. Yes, they do. And you ask any competitor, and you say, have you ever gone into a game when you did not want to win? They'll say, I mean, it's anathema to the way they think. And I'm going to tell you right now, fans need to start wearing these guys out. And these media relations directors at colleges around the country. The old days, you had sports information directors, which opened their arms and hugged you and brought you into their school to cover their school. Now these media relations directors, all they do is sneer at you and say, no. Well, what the hell can we do? I'm going to tell you right now. I don't know Lane Kiffin. Been around him a few times at media events. Always say this. He's kind of an introvert privately, but he's a genius on social media. And I'll say this to give credit to Ole Miss people. They have more damn fun than anybody. I mean, they are so loose. You go to Auburn and Alabama in these games, I mean, your stomach is up in your throat. To this day, when I drive by Legion Field in Birmingham, Alabama, or if I'm up there, some event at the club up on the mountain, and you're looking at the old gray lady, I have memories. It's not PTSD. I don't know what it is, but there's just something about competition. But we have got to. I'm going to tell you why these kids are saying these things, because the adults are allowing it. We were watching Everybody Loves Raymond the other night. Good grief! His kid wouldn't get out of bed to go to school. My parents would have pulled me by my feet and thrown me out and rolled me down the stairs and made me go. I mean, this is why we have kids hitting the portal at the first sign of adversity. If you hold your kids' hands and walk them through adversity or every bit of trouble they ever go through, they are not going to survive. The mother eagle never flies out of the nest to retrieve the eaglets when she kicks them out. It's just sink or swim. That's life. And we're not teaching good lessons, Dave.
I think the strongest indicator of future success, and my business, I invest in startups, and every great founder that I've invested in, all of them overcame adversity at some point in their past. Whether it was adversity that was they signed up for themselves, or adversity that the universe brought to them. But overcoming adversity is it's the quality, in my opinion. And if you're just going to bail at the first sign of adversity or uncertainty, as 31 have at Alabama, it doesn't bode well for the program they're going to, because it's just it's not working here, so now I'm going to transfer again. Yeah, it's stick it out, and Rob, you're right. It's up to the parents, and the parents really need to have a much stronger role in this. And when parents are like speaking for the kid who's gone into the portal, that makes me want to throw up. Yeah,
and this is my take, and I'm going to throw this one up at you. I'm just typing in, and I'm going to throw this at you right now, guys. Tell me if you agree or disagree. Let's stop calling them bowl games and call them regular games. Because if Auburn were playing Maryland in the regular season in College Park or at Jordan-Hare, and I was there November 5th, 1983, Auburn beat Maryland. They were number 7 in the country. Auburn was number 3. Boomer Esiason was the quarterback. Bobby Ross, the VMI graduate, was the coach. And Donnie Humphrey fell on a loose fumble in the end zone at the end. That was a 28-23 game, and it was the largest crowd ever of purely Auburn people at a game. Maryland brought about 650 fans. The other 75,000 were all Auburn. I mean, let's just act like they're regular season games. How exciting. Ole Miss. Hey, let's think about this. During the regular season, Ole Miss is hosting Penn State at Vaught Hemingway, or Ole Miss is going to Happy Valley. You know, LSU has been to Madison, Wisconsin. You got to give LSU credit. And say what you want. Brian Kelly has taken over there. 21 wins in 2 seasons and a Heisman Trophy winner. The defense was god-awful with Chad House. He got rid of them. They're cleaning house, but they'll figure it out. I'm confident that they will. But let's quit calling them bowl games and just start treating them, okay, this is a regular season game. I think people would take a better approach, and the players would, because when you call it a bowl game, you're acting like, remember the Pro Bowl, how bad it got a few years ago when guys wouldn't block on extra points and everything? They started changing it. You know, Dave, I'll throw this one at you. You know, somebody's in the Army and they're short. They're 30 days from exiting, okay? That's when you really better pay attention to details. Don't let your guard down. I always have a saying about home games, the home crowd. You're most likely to get mugged in your own driveway when you're getting out of your car after a late night at 3 a.m. You're letting your guard down. You gotta keep but call these regular season games, and I believe the approach would be different. And I've got a bunch of texts coming in from people. Bowl games matter to the local nonprofit and the Chamber of Commerce, except for the Final Four. Next year, 12. Shoney wrote that. Shoney, I love you. You're smart. You know, sometimes you're way too cynical. They matter, yeah. But you think about what the AutoZone Liberty Bowl does for the city of Memphis and St. Jude Children's Hospital, and all those players going to the hospital to see those young kids and their families. That matters. So if that's what you're talking about, you pick the city of New Orleans, for God's sakes, what they do. You listen, say what you want about New Orleans. I've been to a lot of places around the world. Greatest food on earth is New Orleans, Louisiana. And as Frank says, the most underrated part of New Orleans is their Italian food.
Oh, it's fabulous.
And they're the most hospitable people. I absolutely love New Orleans. I've been there 50-something times. Love it. Love going to the Soldier Shop on Canal Street. First time I went there, I was 9 or 10 years old. My sisters went home with some friends. My parents took me, and I saw the leg going back and forth. I said, "What's that?" And my mother said, "Don't ask." And my dad goes, "Boy, someday I'll tell you." It was come in here with your dollar bills.
It was the lampshade from the Christmas Story before the lampshade from the Christmas Story.
And it was from Italy, Fragile.
Hey, by the way, I think a lot of this issue with the bowl games, because look, I was in Tampa. I went for the LSU Saints Daily Double. I watched the Saints the day before and then LSU the next day. And it was embarrassing how few people were in Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. It was let's make a mistake. They're there for the city and the Chamber of Commerce. They're there to have games that can be gambled on, because that's really what it is. They're made for TV gambling spectacles is what the bowls are, right? And by the way, good luck picking them when you don't know which team really would be there or not. I think we're going to have less of this issue with this 12 team playoff going forward. I think you're going to probably see a lot of the bowls actually go away. I think you're going to see a contraction of the bowls as opposed to the adding on like we've been doing recently. I think really what's going to wind up happening is you're going to have some format where we're going to actually fold the bowls into the playoffs even more. I know home field advantage, but I think they're going to start assigning some of these bowl sponsorships to if Ohio State is got Texas coming in for a game at their location. I think they're going to be assigning that eventually before it's all over with. We're going to have bowls folding into this 12-game playoff, even on those first round games when it's going to be at local locations. I really think that's going to happen.
Yeah, Frank, you were at Raymond James Stadium down there. Do they have a pirate before the game that says, "Are you ready?"
No, but I will tell you, the lady that is our producer on our Detroit Tiger games, she's the booth producer. She was the producer of that game in the booth. So the in-stadium experience, right? Yeah. And it was the funniest thing because the LSU Golden Girls, who are the most buttoned up group of young ladies throughout the years, I mean, literally they walk into stadiums and they've got an entire cloak on that goes down to their gold lace shoes on the bottom. Mm-hmm. Well, all of a sudden they were just cutting up and having a great time, like off the cuff and like extemporaneously with them. They were up on the big screen more than LSU. Well, certainly more than LSU's defense was. They deserved it, but even more than LSU's offense was. But it was a fun event. But the locals didn't go. It was mainly LSU and Wisconsin people. But the upper ring of it, and look, I was there the day before when there was like a playoff atmosphere because both teams needed to win that game. The NFL, the NFL. Yeah. And it was not the difference. So, and look, passionate fan bases, when they play jump around in the third quarter, they go berserk. And this is our third time playing them. And just to correct you a little bit, Rob, we didn't go to Madison. We actually went to Lambeau, which was really cool. And then we played them in Reliant, Houston, which is important because that's our big fertile recruiting. Oh God, But there was no reason for that game to be as poorly attended as it was, and it's because we're in a society now where if you're not in the playoff, you're not in the championship run, it's meaningless.
Well, we
I just thought of this, but how about this for a crazy idea? So we have the 12-team playoff that may even expand further. What if the bowl game occurred in the middle of the season? And so you play 5 games and then have a bowl game and then finish out your season. You're going to have better weather. The games mean more. It's incentive for those that don't get selected to a bowl. It's incentive to get off your ass and finish strong the rest of the season. Yeah, and the games matter. You can have some innovative places to play and stuff like that, and Lambeau Field, stuff like that you don't want to play in December or January.
And you have a wild card of who you don't even know who you're playing. That's right. That's interesting. That is interesting. That's interesting.
Well, here's the thing about the bowl games. There may be some culling that you're going to have to do. You got 44 bowl games, 88 teams out of 133 Division I teams. That's 65%. Just do the gazendas, okay? Right. A bowl game should be a special. It should be a big deal. And the bottom line is, you look at these new basketball arenas that are being built from an architectural standpoint. And I know my dad's listening. He's going to correct me. I'm sure I'll get a text here in a minute. But in a football stadium, I think he's told me once you get above between 50 and 60,000 in that bowl, you start going into those upper decks. It's not really going to be that much louder. If you've ever been to Manhattan, Kansas, to their stadium, or you've been to a place like Oregon at Autzen Stadium, 60,000 or whatever, those things are so loud because they're up. I've been to the Colosseum in Rome. If the Roman Empire hadn't collapsed due to complacency, high taxes, and the decay of morality, they would have invented electricity in all likelihood. I mean, the Appian Way, all roads lead to Rome. They invented, and only my dad, he told me this, they invented reinforced concrete, rebar, because concrete, and I know we have a lot of engineers listening, has no natural tensile strength, okay? And you go in, Franz Beard is on with us now, but concrete has no natural tensile strength. But the new arenas that are being built now are between 9 and 10,000. You look at the Auburn Arena, the Neville Arena, and he paid for those naming rights from Eufaula, Alabama, Mr. Neville, and I think he's right now lives out in Bermuda, but he's from Eufaula. But the 25,000 seat Hilton Arena in Utah at BYU. We're up 23. Thompson Bowling's around 21,000 now. The smaller venues, like the Pavilion in Oxford, Mississippi, no one is more than 46 feet away from the court. Okay, so I'd love to get Grand Bob, my dad, to come on here to join us and talk architecturally. But the bit of trivia. It is Savant Saturday, so I'm going to say this real quick. Dad had a friend who's no longer living named Roy Geiger, who was an engineer, was doing a job in Osaka, Japan, and they were trying to finish the job, and they ran out of money, and they had to put something to cover the field. He said, we're running out of money. Being an engineer, he said, I'll think of something. Well, he got big conveyors and blowers to blow air up, and it created the air-supported domes, and he went on and built the Carrier Dome at Syracuse. But that was, hey, what's the old saying? Necessity is the mother of all invention. Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com, one of the smartest people around, is going to be with us when we come back, along with Frank Duffy and Dave Tompkins. Kevin Scarbinsky experiencing technical difficulties. We're having a problem because no comments can come in from viewers. I don't know what's going on here, but anyway.
That's a good thing, Rob.
I'm getting plenty of text. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back with this erudite that's south of Luverne on 331, erudite Alabama crowd after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne broadcasting live from erudite Alabama. No, just kidding. Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com. Dave Tompkins coming back in there to the office there in Beaufort, South Carolina, home of the Shamrocks, the world-famous Marine Aviator Fighter Squadron. Frank Duffy in Big Canoe up in the mountains in North Georgia. A lot of talk about college football, college basketball, Kevin Scarbinsky. Charter Spectrum just sent a service outage alert for our area. They're working on a whatever the issue is. I can't even connect using my phone as a hotspot. If they get it service restored shortly, I'll jump on. If not, I'll have to join my – no problem at all. I think we're having a problem here on this end. We can't get any comments from viewers. And again, we don't ever know what those could be. But let me say that today's redneck word of the day is mayonnaise. Mayonnaise, a lot of stuff happening out there with all this cold weather. But, Franz, let's talk some college basketball right now. Your thoughts on where the SEC is. And I asked this to everybody during the week. What's the best league in the country? Big 12, Big East, 12, SEC?
The Big 12, unquestionably, but the SEC is not that far behind.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that the Big 10 with its 14 teams won't get 21 of them in the NCAA tournament.
They all do, always do.
I've never seen anything like that in my life. Every single year, they haven't had a national champion since Michigan State in 2000 when they thugged their way to a national championship. Billy Packer called Teddy Dupay a thug, and I'm thinking to myself, is he watching the right team? But anyway, that's another story altogether. They haven't had a national championship teams since then. Yet every single year they get more teams in. This is going to be the exceptional year. They may be only about the third league as far as teams getting the number in. So it's going to be an interesting year. The SEC, I think, is set for 8, maybe even 9 teams to get in this year. I think Florida. If Florida can go 9-9 in the league, Florida gets in, and I think that still holds true for every team in the league. If you get 9-9 in the SEC, it's that tough this year, then you're going to be in the tournament. I like what's going on at LSU. I think they're doing a really good job of maximizing their talent. I don't think he's got the most talented team in the league, but I think he's done a good job of maximizing what he's got and getting him to play his way. I think Florida's got the size that's going to be a problem for everybody. I think the Gators probably win all the rest of their home games, and which will put them at 8 wins in the SEC. So they're going to have to steal 1, maybe 2 on the road to get in, and it's going to be that way. I think the best. I think Auburn, Tennessee, and Kentucky are the 3 best teams in the league, and I don't think there's anybody who could really question that. But I think that there's a next tier down there of about 4 or 5 teams that's very, very capable. I think Alabama is right up there. I'm not sold on them. I don't know about you guys. I am just not. I think they're really good when they're hitting threes, but I think that they're a team that relies so much on the 3 that if they don't have a great shooting night, they're not going to win ball games.
Yeah, Dave Tompkins, you talk about what Franz just said, the 3-pointers. If you shoot a lot of 3-pointers, you've got to be aggressive at getting those rebounds out on the perimeter. But when you watch a college basketball game now, it doesn't matter who's playing. It's almost the same thing. They push it in, then they push it out. And they're just trying to find that open look for the 3-point shot. Very few teams have a really good presence right there under the basket. We all grew up with the forward. You had 2 forwards, a center, and 2 guards, point guard, shooting guard. And, everybody wanted a 7-foot center or 7'2" or 7'3". Now, everybody is a tweener. It's hard to even define the positions that people play. I mean, 45 years ago, we had Magic Johnson, and he was a freak, but he was so incredible. But now that's what everybody is. 6'8", 6'9". What, are we not producing enough tall people? I mean, is Randy, what's the guy? Short people, that song? What's going on?
Oh, that's right.
Randy Owen.
2 points.
Randy Newman, yeah. Randy Owen's the lead singer of Alabama.
2 points. One, to build on Franz's great points. In a typical year, the Big Ten with its 14 teams, gets 21 teams in the tournament, and Duke's road to the Final Four goes through Greensboro and Charlotte. But
and
the second point
is calling all the games.
Here's why I like Bruce Pearl more than Nate Oates. Is that Nate Oates is a recruiting coach and a system coach, threes and layups. Bruce Pearl are those 2 things, but he's also a great game coach. Yeah. He adjusts during the game. He can make timeout adjustments, halftime adjustments. And Alabama with Nate Oates, earlier with Wimp Sanderson, we've never had an ability to modify our play during the game. That's why we've only made 1 Elite 8. And it just, in a handful of Sweet 16s.
You're right about Nate Oates. Worked his way up from high school, gets that job at Buffalo. He's at Alabama. Frank, you watched that game against Missouri the other night. He put his hand on the player from Missouri. You don't do that. You don't put your hand on a cop other than to shake their hand or you're going to be at the Regional 1 Med, at least in my day, and that's the way it should be. But Frank, you talk about the Big Ten, they get Purdue, right? We're hearing it, Purdue, every night, how great they are. They don't show up. I think the national media, they look at the Big Ten footprint, what it's about to become with Oregon, Washington, Southern Cal, and UCLA. They've got 75 or 80% of the TV sets in America are turned on and off in the geographical footprint of the Big Ten. You think that's why they get so many teams? Because they damn sure aren't that good.
The Big Ten is like the monkeys back in the 1960s. Product.
Not Randy Newman.
No. And to Franz's point, you haven't had it since the Flint Five, right? I mean, they haven't made it to the top. And then you got to go beyond that back to Michigan, right? When the Fab Five. So the Big Ten gets a lot of people in because they're in those big markets, right? Going from coast to coast. But then they get into the tournament and then, and they don't show up. So look, this year, I think the SEC, to Franz's point, is we'll get 9 teams in. I think that middle level in the SEC this year is playing as well as it has in several years. So if things break the right way, and like to Franz's point, you get a couple of wins on the road, maybe that a team was not expecting to get, and you avoid the snake pits like Auburn avoided in Vanderbilt the other night, that can always be a pesky place to play. And it was kind of tight there for a while, and then Auburn took off. So as long as you're able to hold serve at home and get a couple of those away teams, and if you get to that 9-win mark in this tough of a conference, I'm going in. I think it's going to be the Big 12 is going to have the most, the SEC is going to have the second, and then, of course, the Big 10 is going to have the third.
I think the Big East is a very strong conference as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Franz, look at UConn. You ever been to Storrs, Connecticut?
Yeah.
5 national championships,
but there are signs that'll get you there in 7 minutes.
Well, the men have won 5 national championships at UConn. The women, 11?
23 or 24.
Yeah. So there's not another school in America that can combine for more men's and women's national championships in basketball than UConn. But if you turn on the TV, you think UCLA is the dominant power in college basketball. We have a lot of people in the national media that broadcast looking out of the rearview mirror, Franz.
Well, you also have Dick Vitale. Yeah. And I love Dick. Everybody loves Dick. I mean, there's nobody has more of a heart for people who have afflictions or diseases or whatever like that than Dick Vitale. I mean, he's an amazing guy. But, better get a T.O. baby got old in 1988, and that was, 40 years ago, 30-something years ago?
Monday, like we talked about earlier.
I mean, I've had it with diaper dandies,
freeze it.
When you have to deal with elderly parents, don't talk about diapers with me. I mean, give me a break on that. But here's the thing, Dick has always been an ACC Big East kind of guy. And if the ACC and the Big East are doing great, he begrudgingly will pull for Kentucky, but that is only because Calipari is Italian. If Calipari, and before him you had long before him you had Tino. Yeah. I mean, if his name had been Billy Bob Johnson, Dick Vitale would have hated them. That's just the way he is about it. But the Big East, to the point, is really, really good this year. Creighton can beat anybody. Yeah. I got to tell you what, UConn is better than everybody. Yep. And when they get Klingon back, Klingon will eat Zach Edney alive.
Right. I totally agree.
Because Klingon is far more mobile than Zach Edney. And UConn's got the great formula. You know, you got tall people who can rebound and shooters who can shoot. You know, Florida's got tall people who can rebound, but our shooters sometimes leave their game. You know, either that or they are kidnapped by their evil twin Skippies. You know, who come to the. You know, Will Richard can make shots, but evil twin Skippy Richard can't.
You don't want to face Marquette or Seton Hall in the tournament either. Those are two great coaches, Holloway and Shaka Smart.
Yeah, let me throw this one at you. What about Gonzaga? What are they, 21, 22 in the rankings right now? The Mark Few's not going anywhere. He stayed there and built that brand to where Gonzaga now is a household name.
Yeah.
And that's been a cool story to watch. The Creighton Blue Jays. Remember one of the big guy, Benoit Benjamin?
Sure.
That's a blast from the past, but they're there in Omaha. That's a Jesuit school.
Yes.
Is Marquette Jesuit?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So the Jesuits, which are obviously the most extreme liberal left of the Catholic Church, and then you got the Dominicans, and you've got the LaSallian brothers, which I was educated by, and they'll knock you in the middle of next week, buddy. You better pay attention, but they're the best people on the planet. Brother Adrian S. Powers, Brother Stephen O'Malley, Brother Stephen Schonhoff. They used to
Southern Baptists here. We don't understand what you're talking about.
Hey, and you know what they used to say? The brothers used to say, we make $1 a day. FSC, Fratres Scholarum was what it was. But I'm going to tell you one thing, man. Brother Adrian used to sweep out in front of Christian Brothers High School on Walnut Grove at 5 o'clock in the morning. He wanted the grounds to look perfect. And by God, he had eyes in the back of his head, in the side of his head, and knew what you were doing. We got 15 minutes for lunch. It was like being in prison. And then we went out in the general population yard, and all the different neighborhoods. The Whitehaven guys are over here. The Raleigh guys are over here. The Midtown guys are over here. And then you had KP duty. You get the tops, the floors, the chairs, the tables. Come on, let's go. 15 minutes. And then you were out there. Nobody educates them better. You're right. And the best Catholic priests, some of the best I've ever seen, were Baptist preachers who went to seminary and then converted to become Catholic priests. They're married. They can still get to keep their families and everything. But bottom line, up here, it's starting to work now. Thank you. Okay.
And the toughest ones that ran the whole place were nuns anyway.
Yeah,
A nun at St. Francis in New Orleans could wield a yardstick like a lightsaber.
That's right. Like a saber. Yeah, I love it. All right. I want to get into some more basketball. Man, we got some smart basketball IQs on here. And you're talking about Creighton, Marquette, UConn, the Big East. And then we talked about the Big 12. We talked about the SEC. And we're not talking – this is what's weird. We're not talking about the ACC. Had Tommy Kane on from over in Charlotte, NC State, Wolfpack, Go Pack. Great coverage of the ACC with him. But what I want to know is Leonard Hamilton's been at Florida State for 70 years, I think, and he's only 57 or something like that, longer than he's been alive. But what in the hell has happened in the ACC?
Good down, man.
The Coach K farewell tour was not good for that conference. It made it look like the conference was going to sleep. Franz, your thoughts?
Well, Hubert Davis has got the best ball club in the league there at North Carolina. And Steve Forbes will sneak up on a lot of people. I love Steve. He was Bruce Pearl's assistant up at Auburn, won a couple of national JUCO championships down at Northwest Florida, and then went to East Tennessee and Wake Forest Gump. And they are doing very, very well. Tony Bennett's always going to be there, but you get beyond, about 4 or 5 teams, and the league's not strong. Clemson, they keep touting Clemson, and every time I watch Clemson, I think to myself, my gosh, if we could play Clemson 10 times, we could make the tournament here at Florida.
Yeah.
Clemson's always been a start fast, finish slow kind of basketball team, and they're doing it again this year. And I think the loss of Boeheim is as significant as the loss of Coach K and Roy Williams. That really, those three have really, their departures have weakened them. And I'm pulling so hard for Hubert Davis, and my better half is a Chapel Hill grad, so I have to pull for the Tar Heels. They are the best team in the ACC this year, and I hope they can advance far in the tournament.
Yeah, my son Wilson lives in Charlotte, and last year his boss took him up to Chapel Hill for the game against Clemson. And he's an Auburn grad, but he loves basketball. He knows it well. He was in there down right by near the court, maybe 3 or 4 rows up from the court. That guy had great seats. He's a Chapel Hill grad. He's like, the Dean Dome. You remember when the Dean Dome was built? Dick Vitale, oh, baby, the Dean Dome. But it's that thing's what, 37 years old now?
Yeah, I think
can't believe they had built the old Carmichael Arena
I
before
love
that.
Carmichael.
Man, and Dean Smith, he that was back when Santa Claus smelled like Marlboros and cheap bourbon. I mean, those were the old days. But Dean Smith, did you ever meet Dean Smith, Franz?
Dean Smith was one of my close friends. And
Tell us, I miss him. I miss that. I miss that in college basketball. And the Duke Carolina basketball game is the Iron Bowl of college basketball. That's just my humble opinion.
The Duke Carolina basketball game is as good a rivalry as there is in all of college sports.
Yeah, for sure.
They're 6 miles apart. You go over there. I'll tell you a quick story. Duke has this Gothic campus with these, they had this beautiful Duke chapel there. Al McGuire was coaching at Belmont Abbey, and he's recruiting kids in New York, and he is sending them pictures of the Duke campus and saying, look, we can't afford to have you come down to pay for you to come visit. So I'm going to send you pictures of the Duke campus. Now he's at Belmont Abbey, where visiting teams dressed down in the catacombs with all the dead bodies, and this was a serious home court advantage. But Al did that, and the kids come down on the bus from New York, and they start looking for the Duke Chapel, and they're wondering what happened to the place, And Al said, "Well, they demolished it in favor of something newer." But there's something special about Tobacco Road basketball. They used to have a tournament in December called the Big Four Tournament that I loved covering when I was writing at a newspaper there. And, it's Carolina, Duke, Wake Forest, and North Carolina State. And for 2 days, it was the best. Because Wake Forest was good. Duke, Duke did have Bob Fleischer. I remember him. The Fly is open. Well, that was Fly Williams, but they adapted that at Duke too for Bob Fleischer. The Fly is open, but it was a great rivalry. Carl Tacey was there at Wake Forest, and he had a guy named Skipper Browne and Rod Griffin from Fairmont, North Carolina. And North Carolina had Phil Ford and Mitchell Kupchak.
Mitch Kupchak.
Lagarde, Tom Lagarde, wasn't he on that team?
Tommy Lagarde. Let me tell you a quick story about how good Dean was. 1996. He's getting toward the end of his career there. Or 95, excuse me. Wake Forest is up by 7 points on North Carolina with 2 minutes to go. And Duke Vitale makes the comment. He says, well, over there in the Wake Forest huddle, they're up 7, 2 minutes to go. They think they're going to win. Over there in the North Carolina huddle, Dean Smith has his guys. They're 7 down with 2 minutes to go. They know they're going to win. And that was the mentality that Dean brought to the game for his teams. They knew they were going to win. And the reason they knew they were going to win was they knew they weren't going to be out-coached ever. And they weren't. Dean was that good. And you look at all the things that we have in basketball that were his ideas. I mean, he was, but you look at it. He's from the Fog,
Just Kansas,
Naismith, Fog Allen, Rupp, Adolph Rupp was from that same coaching tree. So was Dean. And Dean was a baseball coach at Air Force when he got hired by Frank McGuire. And Frank McGuire hired him because Dean's father was so well respected as a coach in Kansas. He coached all 3 sports. And because his dad was so well respected, when his dad said to Frank McGuire, take a chance on this kid, you'll be happy with him. And he did. And he turned out to be a pretty good coach, I'd say.
Wait.
To this day, Kimberly only watches Carolina, her school, in the final 2 minutes of every game. She watches every game, but only in the final 2 minutes because she's like, I know we're going to win. Well, it hadn't quite been that way since Dean left, but that's the mentality of Carolina Nation.
Yeah. And Frank, Dean was an innovator who didn't care. I mean, do you remember the howls that people used to do before there was a shot clock? When he invented
Frank, move up to the camera a little bit. You look like the shrunken head.
Well, you remember when he came up with the 4 corners before there was a shot clock? And look, there was howls in basketball corners. You can't do this. This is not fair. But his teams were so well disciplined that they could run that 4 corners. You couldn't touch them. You couldn't stop them. You couldn't steal the ball. And if you made the egregious error of fouling, they went to the line and hit 2.
Yeah.
I mean, think of that. I mean, think of the stones that it took to be so counterculture to do that and to be willing to change. It's like Saban with his passing attack when he was a ground and pound when he realized that the game was changing.
Yeah. Let me ask you all this. This is incredible history. Franz, good God. Brendan's texting me right now. And, you're all of y'all. I got to tell y'all, I can't thank you enough because I'm getting all these texts from people going, holy cow, you don't, I never knew Dean Smith was coaching at Air Force Academy.
Oh yeah.
Before he went back and ended up, of course, in North Carolina. And you talk about Tobacco Road. My brother-in-law played college football at Virginia Tech and is from Rich Creek up on the West Virginia line. And I remember him used to say, we'll never get in the ACC. And I was always like going, don't ever say never. That's a long time. But we need the ACC network. Do y'all all ever watch that? No. I like to watch it because they'll show that thing about the ACC tournament back when you had to win the ACC tournament to get the NCAA bid. And I really think
State in 83 survive in advance.
Right.
Yeah. And you think about the 4 corners that y'all just mentioned. And I remember when Pat Dye came from Wyoming, he said, it's good to be back in Alabama, the University of Auburn. He called it University of Auburn. But he said, I was out there and I coached over at East Carolina in Raleigh. And everything over there was the 4 corners and Dean Smith. Out in Wyoming, wins the rodeo. But back home in Alabama, is college football all day, every day. And I love college basketball. And I've always said, you want to have a great program at any school in the South. The fans have got to get as upset and angry and smashing furniture and stuff as they do after a football game loss. They got to get that mad after a basketball loss or baseball. And you talked about LSU, Scott Rabelais, okay, Jimmy Ott, the Ott father, Frank Duffy, go Tigers. Jacques Doucet, all of them will tell you there's 35 or 40 media people covering LSU baseball. Look, and when you turn on the TV, The checkerboard end zones in Knoxville, the orange and white, it's iconic. You know what's iconic about LSU baseball? You watch a game day or night at that stadium, is the Tony Sashery banner in the center of the field. I love that.
Well, I'm happy. Anyway. I'm happy to say we've redone our national championship banner. That 2023 just went up about 2 weeks ago. So I don't know about y'all, but I'm ready for the start of baseball, man. There's just something great about being there watching college baseball, having some peanuts, and now a beer, which you can now have, which you couldn't have before. It's something special.
Well, Butch Thompson texted me back yesterday, Auburn's baseball coach. He's in Indianapolis today. Then he's got a camp. He's going to be on with us starting next Saturday, mixing in college baseball with college basketball, college football. And, we got that signing period coming up the 1st of February, first week. Franz, real quick, Brendan just texted me, Brendan Martin, executive producer of Sidelines Sports Network. Let's talk about that Florida situation. I'm not trying to pile on, but Florida State, NCAA talking to them about something. Now they're going to Florida. That's the top trending story in social media right now. You're on the clock.
It should be, because here we have the NCAA in its infinite wisdom throws NIL out there and says there are no rules, but now all of a sudden they want to enforce rules. Okay, how can you enforce rules when there are none to speak of? And this is where they hit Florida State pretty hard over $15,000. Well, we're talking about $13.8 million here is what was offered. Now, that money never got to Jaden Rashada, so Florida does have an advantage there. But you don't know about the NCAA. Nobody knows how they're going to react to anything.
Ready, fire, aim.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I wrote today and I said, Florida's got basically 3 defenses. One of them is throw yourself at the mercy and beg, okay? And say, oh, please, come hat in hand and say, please, and we promise we will never do it again, just like Tennessee did. And they started cheating the day after they fired the coach, even with 798 recruiting violations, and they fire the coach and they bring on somebody new. The NCAA gives them a slap on the wrist. Well, there's one basic reason, I guess, why is because Tennessee has turned cheating into an art form. I mean,
Jeremy Pruitt breaks 4 violations going to the bathroom at 3:00 in the morning.
Well, that's by the way, and Rob mentioned Auburn. I was at Pat Dye's first press conference at East Carolina. I was there, and Woody Page was there. And if I'm not mistaken, AJ Carr was there from the News and Observer, and we had Channel 9 out of Greenville. And that was the entire entourage for his first press conference. And Pat Dye got up there for, fans are going to enjoy eating their peanuts in the ball game. Why did I play football, I mean, he was Coach O before there was Coach O. I mean, he was yo, football,
Yeah.
But anyway,
Coach O was you had to have subtitles under him when he was talking.
I didn't even know what the hell he was saying.
No idea.
Florida, had a divorce with a guy named Jaden Rashada, and I say a divorce, and this is kind of like there's the old saying that what do the state of Alabama and a tornado have in common? Well, somebody's going to what does a divorce in Alabama and a tornado have in common? Somebody's going to lose the trailer. Well,
tornadoes are tsunami storms, so they only go after trailer parks.
Well,
that's Franz beard when y'all send in the emails.
Well, I'll even give you what I my exact quote about that today was I said football divorces tend to be a teensy bit more complicated and a bit nastier. Just ask the Florida Gators, whose divorce from quarterback Jaden Rashada bore a strong resemblance to a deep south tornado capable of wiping out an entire trailer park in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, it ain't pretty. Well, let me say this. I like this comment by Carrie up in Lebanon, Tennessee. Love Tobacco Road hoops tradition. UNC, NC State, Duke, Wake Forest. Who remembers Big Tim Duncan playing for the Demon Deacons? And remember where Tim Duncan is from? The Bahamas, isn't he?
No, British Islands.
British Virgin Islands. Or British BVI or AVI?
American Virgin, U.S.
Okay, yeah.
Islands, where they send the hookers in New York and Los Angeles for recycling.
And the guard on that team was Randolph Childress for the Wake Forest.
Yeah, exactly.
And remember Bugsy Malone?
Oh, yeah.
Bugsy Mogues.
Bugsy Mogues. That sounds like a mob
Bugsy
character.
Mogues. Yeah, not Bugsy Mogues.
Bugsy Malone was in Goodfellas or something, or The Untouchables.
3'2" and playing point guard for Wake Forest.
Yeah, and then, but I'm gonna tell you this: you get into this tradition of college basketball in the SEC. What happened for a long time is it didn't matter. Your football still sucks the oxygen out of the room, but you got to have it. You got to have football to pay for everything. I see us going in the next few years. The NCAA is going to be thrown overboard as shark bait, okay? And what's going to happen is football is going to be on a separate island by itself as the big revenue producer. And Title IX is the law of the land. But what's going to happen is all the non-revenue sports, the Olympic sports, whatever you want to call them, there's 91 NCAA championships. Football is not part of those 91. March Madness makes 95% of their budget for the year. Second most profitable is the College World Series.
Yeah.
Men's baseball in Omaha, which is an iconic religious borderline event that Frank has been to many times. But I think we're gonna get to this point. We're gonna shrink down to 65 teams in the super conferences. The other 68 D1 teams, they'll play for a national championship too, but we're gonna go to that. That's where we're going. Okay. The free market's gonna work all this stuff out. And I'm gonna tell you what else is gonna happen. I think it was Gary Harris, Tide 100.9, said on the show last Thursday. He said, I think Nick Saban was starting to have these conversations with recruits, and they would say, Coach, are you going to be there all 4 years when I come to Alabama? And I believe Nick Saban responded, are you? I think that may have had something to do with his exit. The guy's a young 72. That ain't old anyway. But the other thing is, I think you're going to start seeing the portal. You can say, Rob, you can't stop it. Yes, you can. You can. Adults can stop it. And these kids are going to start learning that, why are some teams going from being on top of the world to the next year they're horrible? You don't have any chemistry. If you don't go through tough times together with people and stick it out and fight through adversity, you'll never have a team culture. You'll just have a bunch of individuals who are padding their stats.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I hate to say it, but Kentucky basketball, most of those guys don't give a damn about the University of Kentucky. I watched them 2 years ago when St. Peter's beat them in the tournament. Every player on that team, except for two of them, had NIL deals worth over $200,000.
Yeah.
You know how much the coach for St. Peter's was being paid? $200,000 a year.
He's now the coach at Seton Hall, back at his alma mater and doing great stuff. By the way, Big Tim Duncan's last game was a loss. He lost to my Stanford Cardinal in the second round of the tournament, but it really underscores game coaching. And Mike Montgomery, our great coach back in the 90s, knew that the only way they could beat Wake Forest in that game was just take Tim Duncan out. We had five big guys. He figured that's 25 fouls. We're just going to foul the bejesus out of Tim and just basically beat him up.
The hack and
we did, and we won the game and made it to the Sweet 16. That was one of my favorite 2 hours of my sports viewing lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. Let me say this. Doug Dean just texted. He's going to be on with us in just a minute from over in the Black Belt near Selma, Alabama. Let me say something real quick. Today, Get out to Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. The roads are fine. And if you don't think you can drive, go run over to Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas and get you a brand new Ford or Toyota car, truck, or SUV with the 4-wheel drive, of course. But Hewlett & Dunn open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. I got this new vest here, and this thing is made out of leather suede from STS. It is so warm, and it's also got the conceal and carry pocket, which most everything in that store has if you need to conceal anything like there. So get out there. They have the largest collection of duck heads I've ever seen. Everything Duckhead makes. They're the second largest Filson dealer in the southeastern U.S. Over 7,000 pairs of great-looking men's and women's cowboy boots. They got hot stuff for the ladies. Dolce Vita boots. You see what Beth wears on Yellowstone, what Rip wears, what John Dutton wears. Schaefer is the consultant, the wardrobe consultant for Yellowstone. They got everything Schaefer makes out there. Pendleton, Devil Dog jeans. They're great. Rockmount shirts. Elvis wore them. Ronald Reagan wore them. Bob Dylan still wears them. The Rockmount shirts. I've got 6 of them. They're awesome. They've got Vask, Danner, Higher boots. These Danner low-cut hiking boots that I've got a pair of. I've been wearing them in the snow. You can run a 10K in them. Best boot I've ever owned. Danner's at Hewlett & Dunn. They also have a 50% off rack. Charles Hall, his wife Laura, the whole team out there, Raven, they are great people. John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, Ronald Reagan, they would all shop at HewlettandDunn.com. Check them out. They deliver anywhere. You'll go back in there. You'll feel like the America we grew up with. It is a great, great place to do business. All right. I want to ask y'all, so Florida State, Florida, the selective enforcement, all these other schools, the NCAA, does anybody, let's just do this real quick before Doug comes on. Does anybody take the NCAA seriously anymore? What do you think Florida said when they got this letter from the NCAA? Oh, really? Us? I mean,
well, here's the
why
thing.
me, Lord?
But see, here's the thing you worry about, Rob, is the fact that there are no guidelines. There are no guardrails. You know, this is on this. This is like going on, you know, I have lived in some interesting foreign countries where you got a highway and there's no stripe to say what's the middle, and people are just driving at you, and it becomes a very, very interesting, you know, it becomes a very, very interesting thing to drive your vehicle, and there's no there, you know, if there's no there's no stripe down the middle and no guardrails on the side, it's basically anything goes. And this is where the NCAA has said it, you know, this is where the NCAA goes after FSU over $15,000. Did FSU get a real competitive advantage over that 15? No, I don't think so. I mean, and this is where you worry about it. Florida didn't get Jaden Rashada, but I believe the NCAA is going to come after them with full force over something that didn't happen. We got a guy named Hugh Hathcock who allegedly has gazillions of dollars, who negotiates a $13.8 million contract to flip a kid from Miami, and then he doesn't even show and whatever. And they say that Hugh Hathcock had a chance to put up the money and either couldn't or didn't. I don't know. I wasn't there, but all I know is now you got a divorce. The divorce is nasty, and there's an aftermath of the divorce. Florida can either go hat in hand, or they could use the Kansas formula and go scorched earth and threaten the NCAA. Say, look, you've only lost your last 812 lawsuits. Why not make it 813? We'll come after you too.
The problem is the NCAA. They rule and it's inconsistent. That's the problem. Yeah. The NCAA goes from Barney Fife fishing for his one bullet to Al Pacino Scarface from 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. It's the crazy thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's bring Doug Dean in right now. Doug out there. I love the coveralls. Been out there in the deer stand. All right, first off, Did you drop a big buck, a 172 Boone and Crockett score? What do you got there, Doug?
I was feeling merciful because we're only about 9 days into commemorating that our long national nightmare is finally over. So I acted all the best to Coach Saban and Miss Terry.
4th and 31's a distant memory.
I feel like telling my Bama friends, and they'll be just fine. They always are. It's just a question of how quickly. But I feel like telling my Bama friends, welcome to what it's like changing coaches. I mean, I don't care how you try to plan for the transition in this modern era with all the allure of NIL and the it's always greener on the other side, like in Caleb Downs, I think, going to Ohio State, one of Alabama's best defenders. But I think you got to hire the coach that you believe is the best coach, but you can't wait too long at all, guys, doing talent acquisition with the kind of defections they appear to be having.
Well, you sit there and think, Doug, basketball. William Halliday, our intern, was on the show with us yesterday. Just texted me an article he wrote, the Auburn Plainsman online, talking about this matchup. Great job, William, by the way, pointing out William's a hell of an athlete himself in high school and in the U.S. And he said this is the first time ever that Auburn and Ole Miss have both been ranked when they're going to play one another. I mean, Bruce Pearl, Chris Beard, similar personalities. I mean, this is going to be like a football game tonight, Doug, down at the Jungle.
Yeah, it's a lot of excitement. And, I got to interview Bruce back in December. And early in the interview, one of my comments was, well, Coach, from people I talked to and looking at this roster and the depth, and the fact that we should have very good guard play, we've got good bigs. I think about by February, Auburn will be a team not many teams want to play. And Bruce Pearl chastised me and he says, well, that's great, Doug. The problem is it's December right now. And, but hey, Bruce, if you're listening, Bruce, I told you were going to be good. Well, and know what I think he's doing, which makes complete sense, is it's not just to have depth and a style between playing defense, turning people over, not turning the ball over much yourself, good ball handling, moving the ball on offense, but especially playing defense because that will travel. It's not just so that you have a chance to win the SEC regular season. I think it's setting up that this is what you've got to be able to do when March Madness rolls around. You got to be able to win games 3 or 4 different ways, and sometimes with a very quick 2-day turnaround.
Game
If
coaching.
you're not shooting on that particular day, defense can carry the day.
You hope.
Yeah.
Well,
defense travels in football or basketball.
Yep. Great.
Here's the thing that you've got. You finally have a roster of coaches in the SEC that you look at and you say to yourself, this guy can get it done. You look at the guys who have been there and done that. Bruce Pearl has been to a Final Four. Chris Beard of the Texas Beards has been to a Final Four. John Calipari has won a national championship. Eric Musselman has gotten his team to an Elite Eight. I know up in Tennessee, they keep telling me Tennessee is elite, and they are really good. And I got to tell you what, Dalton Connect is absolutely the real deal. Shoots the ball so high over his head and gets the ball so far back you can't block his shot, and it's the same stroke everywhere. But Tennessee has made one Elite Eight in its history. One. Florida's won 2 national championships, been to the Elite Eight 5 or 6 times. Arkansas has won a national championship, played for a national championship, made the Elite several times. We're getting ready to add Texas, which has done very, very well. But this league has got coaches who know how to coach and get the job done at a high level.
Yeah.
And that's something we did not have even like 8 or 10 years ago. I give credit to Greg Sankey. It started with Mike Slive.
Yes.
But Greg Sankey's the one who really took this to heart and started telling people, you got to get good coaches here. We're never going to get great players till we get good coaches.
Yep.
And this is what you're saying. Ole Miss, Florida played Ole Miss, and the pavilion was packed.
Yeah.
Arkansas came to Florida the following Saturday, last Saturday afternoon, and my ears were ringing for an hour and a half after the ball game because the noise level was that great.
Yeah.
But you're getting that, and that's exactly why the SEC is now, I think, just shy of the Big 12 of being the best conference in the country.
Yeah, Doug.
Certainly top to bottom.
Yeah, I mean, we have now a handful of great game coaches that can win in March, that can win in a single elimination tournament format.
Yeah,
and I don't recall us ever having that, sort of at scale before, like we have now.
Doug, jump back in.
Yeah, thank you. It's going to be in. By the way, I was listening to the whole show, and from my stand, and I would set the volume where I could barely hear it, but the deer couldn't hear it. And Duffy, you were screwing that up. Duffy, you talk in all caps, if you know what I mean. And I love you, Duff. Anyway,
we live and love large down here, pal.
Man, save a seat for me when I depart Auburn. I'm coming to Baton Rouge.
You got it.
Seriously, I think tonight will be fun in Auburn. 7:30, I believe, tip off, because Allen and Wes Flanagan make their triumphant return, and Bruce has pleaded with the student section to be nice to them, that they were former Auburn men. And I think Bruce is being dumb like a fox here. I don't think they're going to be nice to Allen Flanagan at all.
and Ole Miss kind of is finding themselves, I don't want to say it's a must win, but they've got to play well tonight. I mean, after losing to us on Wednesday, Ole Miss better show up tonight.
Yeah, there are people already saying Ole Miss was exposed. I mean, what do you mean they were exposed? Do you realize what Chris Beard had to deal with when he took over? I love Kermit Davis. Didn't work out. But, I mean, he's got 15 wins already, and they know how to win those close games. I think this is going to be a
game worries
tonight.
Yeah, I think the game worries me a little. They got a 7'5" center and another big 7-footer that can block shots. So Auburn is going to have to be hot enough from outside the arc, in my opinion. You can't live, and I don't mean go like Alabama does, but I think Auburn will have to get more scoring from the perimeter than they do in a lot of games.
Yeah.
Agreed.
There are no easy games in the SEC. Franz is right. Mike Slive said before the SEC network was launched August of 2014, everybody ramp up the product. You can't charge Ruth's Chris Steakhouse prices if you're putting a CK's coffee shop steak on the table. And we didn't even have that good a quality at a lot of the schools. Remember Tony Barbee? God. I mean, him and Brian Harsin together cancel out humanity. They were so bad.
You hear that, Vanderbilt? Get those contractors working.
Well, Vanderbilt doesn't – I'm so disgusted. I mean, wow. Jerry Stackhouse, he might dress well. He ought to coach harder. I mean, good God. Vanderbilt basketball used to be – that's an iconic place to play.
Yeah.
I thought it was an Auburn home game the other night. There's so many Auburn fans. There are a lot of them that live in Nashville anyway, and graduates and all. What's happening at Vanderbilt, it's getting worse. There's more fans of all these SEC schools pouring in there, and they don't have a home court advantage. Doug Dean, Franz, Dave, Frank, remember when Memorial Gymnasium, they never had a losing season in history until 4 years ago when Bryce Drew drove Old Dixie down that night. It was awful. Watch what's happening.
Here's what the problem is at Auburn. I mean, at Vanderbilt, not at Auburn.
Yeah.
Auburn
has no problem
on my mind. At Vanderbilt, the entire athletic department is under the Department of Physical Education.
Mm-hmm.
They do not. They don't have a separate athletic department that is run by people who actually know what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm sure the lady who is their athletic director is one of the nice people on the planet. She's probably somebody you would be proud to call your buddy or your friend. But let me put it this way: you could put me in the cockpit of a 747 and give me an owner's manual and tell me I had an hour to get the plane off the ground and fly it to Saint somewhere else. There is a possibility that I could actually do it. I mean, I'm smart enough to get my computer up every day, so I probably could fly that plane, right? Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah. I mean, but until Vanderbilt decides to put its athletic department in the hands of people who actually know what they're doing, who know the games, etc., like that, their entire the one thing they have done is they have allowed baseball to basically become autonomous.
Yeah, well,
we can't forget they have World Championship Collegiate Bowling.
3 national titles in bowling, folks. Bowling shoes, black and gold, Boom Cumberland bowling shoes are a hot item. I'll throw this one at you. Put your hands in the hands of the man who still calms the water. Vanderbilt needs to get someone who is combat effective to run their athletic department. What they do is they just promote within their system of meritocracy, and they've got almost $12 billion in their endowment, Doug Dean. There's no excuse for it. Tim Corbin, the baseball coach, Chris Lee, Southeastern 14, is on the show with us every week, covers Vandy rivals and covers Vandy in the SEC. He said, Tim Corbin, the baseball coach, who's in the last decade, has had maybe the best baseball program in America, college baseball, was so turned off by the toxic loser mentality in the Vanderbilt Athletic Building, he moved to a separate building. Said, I can't take it anymore. I love that guy, Doug Dean.
Yeah, Rob, Vanderbilt, and I don't mean this to be unkind, but, their football
I don't either. I love the school.
Their football record over the years speaks for itself. It just does. But they're, to me, an interesting case study as all this realignment occurs on the question. Vanderbilt doesn't have to, and I don't think the SEC can force them to exit the SEC for the reasons we've talked about and revenue. But why can't there be I think there inevitably needs to be a model in which they gracefully decide on football, we're going to go play in a more manageable conference. Our fans will love it. We'll have winning records. We can enjoy the bowl season more most years. But they keep baseball and basketball in the SEC. What's wrong with that?
A reverse Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Well, here's one other thing to keep in mind. Vanderbilt,
but Rob, so they also don't share in the SEC football revenue if they do.
Correct. Yeah. Here's the thing: in a business partnership, if you bring people on, if 1 and 1 don't equal 3, don't do it. It's not a good deal. And Vanderbilt has, like Chris talks about, there's about 35 big donors that they go to. They don't reach out to the mass populace. And I was at the Auburn Vanderbilt game up there. It was 90% Auburn people there. I mean, I literally, and that was in the Skinner box. It's what Audrey calls it. B.F. Skinner, the famous psychiatrist. We talked about putting the mice. It took 45 minutes, almost an hour, to get out of that stadium. And then they didn't even have a homecoming court. They introduced 10 people with stupid majors like Elizabethan poetry and the antiquities, and one of them was dealing with people as yet undecided. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. The one kid had a major in science and mathematics. They'll all be working for her. But I'm just going to say there's no excuse for Vanderbilt not to be successful in football, given where they are. Look at Northwestern, look at Stanford, look at Notre Dame. I know they're in the SEC, but you got to try. Franz?
I got to tell you a story about Vanderbilt. This will tell you a little bit of something about them. 2006, the year the Gators win their first national championship in basketball, the SEC tournament is played in Nashville at Bridgestone Arena. Then I don't know if it still is or whatever.
Right. It still is, yeah.
Okay. Everybody trots out their cheerleaders and their pom-pom squads and everything like this. And, of course, Vanderbilt, let's just put it this way, that, you know, they could use an influx of good-looking women. But anyway, they've got this one squinky little cheerleader. And when I mean squinky, you know, Bugsy Mogs could post him up.
Yeah.
That's how squinky he is. And then they have this cheerleader, and let's just say that, you know, she could be one of your large and lovely models. Let's just say. I'm not going to denigrate her. I mean, let's face it, she was as good looking as she could get, considering it is Vanderbilt. Anyway, all the cheerleaders, you know how they do it? They got the hand on the girl's seat and they go whoop like this.
Yeah.
He couldn't do it, and all of a sudden he's there.
Oh, that is rough.
Oh my! Well, let me say this.
What an ending to Savant Saturday right there.
Yeah, look, but here's the
that
thing.
is rough.
We run out of time, but I got to tell you, Doug Dean, awesome. Franz Beer, GatorBaitMedia.com, and the Buddy Martin Show. Frank Duffy, go Tigers, up in Big Canoe. Dave Tompkins of the Low Country in Beaufort, South Carolina. Kevin Scarbinsky had tech problems. I think it's Spectrum there in the Birmingham metro area. Nothing's working, but kind of a crazy time right now. The cold slows down technology. It just does. You got to improvise and work through it. If a portal age kid today were trying to do the show under the circumstances we're in right now, the heat in this part of the house is out. It was 46 degrees in our bedroom with the heater going last night.
Africa.
They would quit. They would go into the portal. But you know what? We hung in there and we fought and we brought the damn thing home. Great show. I cannot thank y'all enough. Our sponsors, listeners, viewers, and everything like that. You learn more when you get smart people on, smarter than you. For me, y'all are smart. It's a lot of fun. And also, pay attention to William Halliday, our intern, the AuburnPlainsman.com. He wrote a story about this basketball matchup tonight between Auburn and Ole Miss. And then he started breaking it down that only a player could do it. I just told him, I said, send this to Ken Capps and Bo Carter, the Texas duo of writers that are on with us on Fridays with William. But all of y'all, great stuff as always. Folks, we do this 6 days a week, 25 times a month, over 300 times a year. Don't ever forget, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We're the most blessed people in the greatest country in the history of the world. It's an honor and a privilege to do this stuff. It never feels like work. And I'm going to tell you something. One of these days, Doug is going to drop a 14-point, 172 Boone and Crockett score and pull that up there on the set.
He might be walking by now. Doug's got to get that rifle ready to go.
Hey, guys, you know, it ain't a sport until you give the deer guns and let them shoot back. Then it becomes a sport.
Hey, I know one thing. Doug would have taken
an assassination.
Hey, I know one thing. Doug would have taken some of that heat from you, Rob. I know that. It had to be cold out there this morning.
Hey, Doug Dean is my Bob Newhart. But Doug Dean is my Bob Newhart. I get all riled up.
Rob, before you go, the only thing I wondered is from Franz's story is which is more embarrassing, the lack of upper body strength of that Florida cheerleader?
No, Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt. My bad, Vanderbilt. I got Florida on the
Post up Muggsy Bogues.
Yeah.
The lack of upper body strength or the weight level challenge of the object he was lifting. I don't know which is more embarrassing.
Hey, let me tell you something.
Charles Barkley's butt.
Oh, no, I think she transferred to Wisconsin from what I saw at Raymond James Stadium.
Well, I guess, let me ask you, have you guys ever listened to the Vanderbilt band?
They play kazoos. I mean, it's not much of a band. They play the harp. They play the harp over there.
They want them to have a marching band, but they say, we can't march with our cellos.
Yes, that's right. Hey, we'll be back Monday morning. We had a great show in store for you. Coach John Brady's going to join us. Doug Dean probably be back on with us. I'm going to tell you what, I like that thing. Auburn Bruce Pearl and Chris Beard should have played for the national championship, albeit for a missed double dribble a couple of years ago. You're going to get a chance to see these two square away tonight. College basketball, football, all-star games, NFL playoffs. Stay tuned. We'll be back Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. We're out of here.
See you guys.